the US dollar, Bitcoin, and stable coins all be part of the same ecosystem. And you see, prominent Bitcoin banks, as it were, like Zappo, marketing that they're the bridge between those three things, because the goal is to have those three things, all be part of the same system as it was essentially outlined.
Webb begins by addressing the long-term decline in the purchasing power of the US dollar, a trend that has persisted since the creation of the Federal Reserve. Over the past century, the dollar's value has significantly eroded, largely due to continuous inflation and fiscal policies that have prioritized debt accumulation and monetary expansion. Webb argues that this persistent devaluation is a symptom of deeper structural issues within the U.S. financial system, which are exacerbated by irresponsible fiscal policies. In response to this devaluation, Bitcoin has emerged as a potential alternative, a decentralized digital currency that offers a hedge against inflation and the erosion of fiat currencies. Webb highlights the growing interest in Bitcoin as a means of preserving wealth in a world where traditional currencies are increasingly viewed as unreliable. However, she also raises concerns about the ways in which Bitcoin might be co-opted by the very institutions it was designed to circumvent. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
If you consider what the fiscal policy has been with respect to the dollar, since the creation of the Federal Reserve, the purchasing power of the dollar has just, been demolished over the course of the past 100+ years. So in order to sort of get away from that, viewing Bitcoin as really the only means of digital credit, if you're going to make digital dollars, if you're able to yoke digital dollars to that and use it as a sink for hyperinflation, that seems to be sort of the idea here. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, if that system is to come to fruition, it has major implications for why a lot of people got into Bitcoin in the first place, which is to stop irresponsible central bank policy and irresponsible U.S. government fiscal policy and, the debt burden and all of that, because it doesn't provide any incentive for them to stop hyperinflating, essentially, or printing debt, creating more debt and all of that. They just view, the view seems to be that they could just use it as a sink for the debt. So, I don't necessarily think that's the big win that maybe some people are framing it as. And I also don't see, necessarily perpetuating the hegemony of the dollar or fiat in general as necessarily a good thing, because, it's just sort of a symptom of the debt-based monetary policy that the world has had for a few hundred years now. And obviously there have been a lot of problems that have come with that. And I think, as people in the Bitcoin space have pointed out for a long time, that really can't continue. And so do we really want to use Bitcoin to perpetuate that? I think that's an important question to ask. And obviously something has to be done about the U.S. national debt, but is this really the best way to do it? And I don't know. I personally think that some of the people responsible for all of the debt in government, Congress, most of those people are multimillionaires working on behalf of multi-billionaires. Maybe they should be held accountable for some of the national debt stuff and not just be like, oh, we can use Bitcoin as our plaything to sort of get out of all the irresponsible decisions we've made for the past, 100 years plus. The system they're setting up, the goal is to have the US dollar, Bitcoin, and stable coins all be part of the same ecosystem. And you see, prominent Bitcoin banks, as it were, like Zappo, marketing that they're the bridge between those three things, because the goal is to have those three things, all be part of the same system as it was essentially outlined by Trump's speech. And as it relates to Bitcoin, I think that is not the answer. I think, if Bitcoin is the sound money, it should be what is transactable between people, and that robust privacy tools need to be built upon it. Because if the issue is surveillability, I think that needs to be tackled there. And I think, based on how this whole system's been described, the retail facing part of it would be the stable coins, and that people would just be holding but never transacting with their Bitcoin. But there has to be consensus for that, and it seems like the establishment consensus. And there's a lot of people, in the Bitcoin space that are just, very caught up in the electoral politics and the emotions of it, and feeling validated for what the industry they've been in for several years. That's obviously sort of not been favored by the establishment. Some people are maybe thinking, since the establishment is favoring this, let's cheer it on. But is it really the best system for everybody? And is it the best for financial freedom, and all of that? So I would urge people to consider, what is it that you want Bitcoin to be used for? Not just, well, again, there's some people that are hyper Bitcoinization at all costs. Doesn't matter if we totally abandon the original ethos behind Bitcoin and getting there. And I think there definitely are a significant amount of those people, but I don't agree with that. I think the ethos is very important. I think Bitcoin is unique, and it's really the only opportunity like this we're likely to have, at least in this important window of time. And people need to decide if they're going to use it to fight for those things, or if they're going to acquiesce to the system that's being set up and is going to be pushed on people, most likely through regulation and executive orders. And it's very likely that in the next 2 years, whoever wins in November is going to be president during an unprecedented U.S. government debt crisis. And this is, if you already see it in Trump's policy, if he's in office, this is the system he's going to propose as the solution.
Webb's analysis moves to the concept of using Bitcoin as a tool to address the U.S. government's mounting debt crisis. She notes that there is a growing narrative suggesting that Bitcoin, or digital assets in general, could be integrated into the financial system to manage or mitigate hyperinflation. By tying digital dollars to Bitcoin, the argument goes, the government could create a sink for the debt, allowing for continued fiscal irresponsibility without the immediate consequences of inflation or default. However, Webb is skeptical of this approach. She questions whether perpetuating the dominance of the US dollar, even through digital means, is truly beneficial. The dollar's hegemony is closely tied to a debt-based monetary system that has been in place for centuries, and Webb argues that this system has led to numerous economic and social problems. By integrating Bitcoin into this system, there is a risk that the original ethos of Bitcoin financial sovereignty and decentralization could be lost.
Well, I think it depends on what happens with regulation and moving forward, ultimately. I think it's been made very clear by the people that like it in the traditional financial system now, that they only like it if it's used as digital gold and not as something transactable. They don't want to transact with it. They want it to be something that's held, and again is for asset storage, really. And that it's a digital asset, that it's never a digital currency. And I think, we would be naive to underestimate them. Maybe they're acting like they're on, the team of regular Bitcoiners right now, but I definitely don't think that's true. I think there's going to be a lot of efforts to centralize it as much as it can be, and control the on and off ramps as much as possible. Potentially make efforts to criminalize efforts to put privacy on Bitcoin. And I don't know. I mean, it honestly depends with a lot of the decisions that are made going forward. But I would definitely want people to be more vigilant, as opposed to being like, oh, as long as these people like Bitcoin, we have won, and Bitcoin will fix this, and we can sit back and relax and just wait for things to happen.
Right.
I think that's kind of QAnon-esque, and I don't think that's I think that's exactly what people like Larry Fink would like us to do, ultimately. And so if you want it to be those things, and want it to be a currency and be transactable, and be able to challenge some of these efforts to centralize it and surveil it, then efforts need to be, you need to be very proactive about making that a reality.
No, that's
and pushing back against it. And I think an important time to do that is now, before there are regulations, before the system is in place, the system that the establishment would like to put in place, and the place it wants Bitcoin to hold, in their system. Obviously, that's going to be a system that benefits them a lot more than it benefits the rest of us. It's important to keep in mind that people like Larry Fink have very overtly said that markets don't like democracies. They like totalitarian governments. So this is a guy that is not about promoting your financial freedom or anyone's financial freedom. This is someone that likes top-down, centralized control to reduce risk in markets in which he trades and is active, so he can, make more profit for his shareholders, which are, multi-billionaires and other people like that. So, and of course, Sphinx in that category as well. So, to trust these people, I think would be very naive. And I think, maybe there is hope of some sort of Trojan horse functionality there at some point later on, but not if people aren't thinking about that the whole time and thinking about how they'll affect those changes later on. And again, I think it would be very naive to think that regulation or the FBI or any of these other agencies aren't going to be very intense when it comes to how people are using Bitcoin, and if they're using it the wrong way. You have a lot of these establishment actors partnering up with groups like Chain Analysis, which I believe was funded by NQTEL, the CIA. They have a very vested interest in that. And then you have former CIA directors like Mitchell Morrill, who now works for Beacon Global Strategies, putting out pieces on Bitcoin and things like that, saying that, it would be preferable if criminals used Bitcoin instead of $100 cash bills and stuff. So, they definitely think they're going to be successfully able to surveil people. And again, they will be if regular Bitcoiners or developers do nothing to prevent that. And I think there's an effort sort of to make people think, oh, look, here we are, we've arrived, we've won, and sort of get people to sit back and relax and do nothing, which again, I think was a lot of the strategy behind the whole like QAnon trust the plan thing, while Trump didn't keep his campaign promises. Oh, he's not keeping it because there's 5D chess happening, and just sit back in your chair and don't be active and don't hold him to account and don't demand that he keep the campaign promises that matter to you and things like that.
Webb concludes by urging the Bitcoin community to remain vigilant and active in protecting the original ethos of Bitcoin. She draws parallels between the current situation and the Canon phenomenon, where people were encouraged to trust that everything was under control and that they did not need to take action. Webb warns that this kind of complacency could be disastrous for Bitcoin's future, especially if it allows traditional financial institutions and governments to take control of the narrative and direction of Bitcoin. She emphasizes that now is the time to push back against efforts to centralize and regulate Bitcoin before new systems are put in place that could permanently alter its role in the financial ecosystem. The future of Bitcoin, she argues, should not be left to the whims of financial elites or government agencies, but should be determined by those who believe in its potential to provide true financial freedom. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on investment strategies and financial tips. Leave your questions and comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.